What's up, everyone? Welcome to the beginning of January. Even though there's 31 days, this is going to go by very fast, and before you know it, we're going to be in our new phase, throws training. So we came through general preparation in October and November, specific preparation in December, and now finishing that in January. February and March, as we get closer to the season, throws training. So I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of what this phase looks like, what we're changing, the why behind why we're changing it, both from a technical perspective, javelin technique, as well as physical perspective. So before I start, I didn't make all of this stuff up. I've pulled it over my athletic and coaching career from all different sources, most notably Kari from Finland, Klaus Bartonez from Germany, two of my big inspirations, but also Todd Reish, my first coach. I worked with him for about 10 years out in California, as well as Tom Petronov, Tom Puxtis, Jeff Gorski. I've pulled from all different areas, as well as some reading and learning I've done over my coaching career, the beginning of my coaching career. So this is kind of my take on it, my culmination of all this information. So take it for what you will. All right, throws training. So this, I guess it's kind of like choosing your favorite child. You can't really do it. So I can't choose my favorite phase, but I love throws training because now we're really getting intense and the rubber starts to meet the road. So from a top level perspective, intensification continues. So what intensification? I learned this term from Derek Everly and Dan Paff. So there's a certain load, right? We're loading you athletes so that it elicits stimulus and that you adapt to that stimulus. There's only so much load that you can handle. So the load now is increasing in intensity. So to maintain a level of load that you can handle without getting hurt or starting to have negative effects, we need to lower the intensity or lower the density. That is the frequency of how hard we train intense. This could also be seen as polarizing the training. So we are increasing the amount of high intensity work we do. You'll see a lot of the medium intensity work start to go away, and the low intensity work will stay and maybe increase a bit because general preparation is the cornerstone of how athletes compete. So we can't lose touch of those general physical qualities that we've developed, we need to maintain and maybe even improve. Right, so intensity, right? We want to make sure that as we increase the intensity during this phase, that is being transferred into more power into the javelin, aka more distance. What we will likely see in some cases and what we want to train to move through this is more speed, more intensity. The posture and the timing that we've developed at lower speed starts to break down. So in order for us to throw personal bests under pressure when it matters most, we need more speed and to maintain that rhythm, that timing, and that posture so that we can get our technique to work. So that's what this phase is starting to get into. Very exciting work. We're also continuing to build confidence, right? The confidence in our technique, the confidence in how we feel, the physical preparation, right? We feel well-rounded, robust, we feel like a javelin thrower. That confidence will lead to relaxation and commitment to the process, commitment to your technique later on in the season, and under pressure, that's what matters most, right? So I can't stress enough, I'll link the Money in the Bank blog that I wrote, but like I said earlier, we need to manage load. So as we intensify, as the intensity increases, we can't just have the same volume, the same, more intensity with the same frequency and think that we're going to automatically adapt. So it's a personal process to manage that load. So we need to put money in the bank, know when to back off, and know when it's okay to push it. All right, so getting into the nuts and bolts. So we have this chart here, and pardon my chicken scratch, the technical and the physical, as well as the competition. So three big things. What are we doing in this phase and how are we doing it? So starting with the most important, technical. So at this point, our approach is stable, or it's getting stable. By the end of this phase, our approach needs to be stable. That means the check marks are repeatable, the rhythm is consistent. We're starting to measure those check marks. Most of our javelin running without throwing is going to be approaches. We measure the check marks, we have consistent rhythm, that becomes automatic. Rhythm is consistent. With our throwing, we are raising the floor. This is the phase where we are consistent with the rhythm and we're raising the floor. That means my shortest throw of the throwing session gets a little bit longer. We don't worry about the top here. The top comes when we have a high floor. So we're gonna get big PRs when that adrenaline hits and the competition comes in those great stadiums, in the championship meets. But for now, we're raising the floor. That means eliminating those bad throws. Just consistent, well-executed throws. So the increased speed, so as we add more steps to this technique, that doesn't hurt the rhythm, right? We need to maintain that crescendo, dun, 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 right? In that aggressive penultimate step. We can't add more speed, only to slow down. That's very important. That is the what of what we're trying to achieve technically. How are we gonna do that? We're gonna mix in heavy, light, and competition weight javelins for the more advanced crew. For the beginners, we'll probably stick with competition weight javelins, but more steps, right? We're adding more steps, more aggressive attacking, but we maintain the rhythm and we continue with that aggressive penultimate step, like I said. So we will do more low intensity ball throws to maintain volume of relaxation, to maintain the posture, the sequence that we've developed over the past phases, to stay in touch with that and continue to ingrain the ability to be relaxed and effortless with our throwing. From a physical perspective, this is where it gets intense, it gets exciting, this is very fun, this is why we train in a lot of cases. We're gonna start to hit personal bests in training components. So there'll be opportunities to hit personal bests in some of the jumps we do, some of the sprints, some of the lifts, some of the medicine ball throws. We'll start to measure those things. What we wanna do is hit those personal bests without the crazy, right? Save the adrenaline for the competitions that are coming up. We wanna stay high intent, high focused, but we don't wanna waste that energy, right? We do not, especially in these training components, need to get nuts at this point, right? Save the crazy for later. Save the crazy for the javelin. We want to be relaxed here with high intent. As I said earlier, polarization, right? So more high intensity, less medium, and low stays about the same. That is to have a consistent load that you can adapt to. We are, like I alluded to, maintaining commitment to our general preparation. So our flexibility, our stability, right? The activation of our muscles, our well-rounded, our aerobic capabilities, we need to maintain. And in some cases, even with a low volume, with attention to details, we can improve those things. And that's what our athleticism is based on. And that's how javelin throwers throw far. They're great athletes. So how are we going to do this? Maximum intensity. Maximum intensity. That doesn't mean screaming, sniffing, smelling salts, but that means high intent, maximum intensity, right? So more rest, lower reps, and we'll add more special strength in. So when I say special strength, that's just a fancy word for power strength, explosive strength, and then reactive strength. So those things on a continuum of how quickly you develop the force. So we express power, that can be done with the weight room, cleans, snatches, Olympic lifts, things like that. Explosive, that's a little bit longer to produce the force, maybe some weighted jumps, resisted runs, and then reactive strength, that develops force using our tendons and ligaments in less than 0.2 seconds. So that's really on the order of how fast we develop force in the javelin throw itself. So we're moving to start to introduce some reactive strength moves so that we can train ourselves to produce force fast, just like we do in the javelin. Lots of fun. And then lastly, competition. So we're just starting to get into the competition, but we want to have our eyes on where we're going. So early season competitions for some folks may happen in February. I doubt, and I wouldn't recommend a lot of competitions in February, but in March, we may start to see some competition. So we're moving from high intensity throwing sessions in practice to early season, low stakes competitions. This is where we can add in those competition variables. Now, you cannot foul. You have competition. There's some adrenaline on the line. Maybe it's cold out. Maybe there's some wind. So there are some factors that you didn't have in practice, and now we need to maintain the posture, the rhythm, the sequence that we had developed. So we're throwing those things in to make sure you're fire hardened so that when we get to April, May, June, championship season, you're ready to go. You've dialed that in. throws training phase is going to be great. Good luck.